Hello, everyone. Welcome to From the Heart. I'm Jeanette.
And I'm Mary.
And we're excited to bring you all that is new and good when it comes to the arts in Central Florida.
Today, we're talking with award-winning artist Jason Hunt. He's here to tell us about his unique artistic journey that led him to where he is today. Hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Now, Jason, earlier, you said something that caught my attention. You mentioned how you first picked up a pencil and paper because you couldn't afford anything else when you were growing
Yes,
up.
that's right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in very strange circumstances. My mother and father didn't get along. My father would take off, as they say. That old song, Papa was a Rolling Stone. My father, that's who my father was. And there were 6 of us, and we lived in a 2-room basement apartment, and the other room was the boiler room. And we didn't have much. My mother worked very hard, and she had learning disabilities, which I found out later in life I also had. I have something called dyslexia, which is common, but I also have something called dysgraphia. And I was talking to a gentleman about that who studied it a little bit, and he said dysgraphia actually is a form of Tourette syndrome. And it also is somewhat related to Asperger syndrome as well, too. So it impedes your learning ability to, mainly to write. I can draw in linear, art is linear, and writing is not. It's more based on mathematical. Symbols have to make sense. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up with that, and I would kept back in kindergarten because I couldn't do the basic skills. Other children, and they put you in that category of being mentally handicapped. Oh. And so you go inward, and you become somewhat unfocused, and you don't communicate very well, and it takes a long time to get out of that.
When did you start drawing?
Oh, as long as I could remember. I drew things that I found interesting. I drew things that I wanted. I drew things about things I loved and people that I cared about. And my earliest memory is that my mother was a very kind person, and she worked very hard. And she had diabetes, and she lost her sight when she was 28. She's totally blind by 30. And she never saw my artwork, and she spoke to people about it. She was very proud, and I was very proud of her.
Tell her about the tapes.
My mother was blind, so they used to call books for the blind. They were actually records, and I would order them, or they would just send, and I started making orders for my mother, which I got Dickens and Shakespeare, which I would listen to. And so I enjoyed Charles Dickens because he spoke about the things I was really interested in, about social, the way people live without having anything, coming from poverty, which Dickens did, and I related to that as well.
Can you tell me the first time that you remember being recognized for your talent? The first time another person said, wow.
My school teacher, Mrs. Miller, in the 6th grade, I won a contest in the school for the best drawings, like 6 different drawings. And that's the first time anyone ever looked at my work and thought it was good.
What did that feel like to be recognized in that way? Because clearly you used your drawings to express what you couldn't write in words on paper. What did that feel like to have someone finally get you?
It's a nice, simply that you're being recognized and you're not considered what they call handicapped, because I was in the class with handicapped children, but I was a pretty tough guy, and I would take care of them. Other children would throw rocks at them and push them, and I would punch a few people out for that reason, and I would walk them home until I got into the 8th grade, and I took all my classes after a while with a tape recorder because I couldn't write all the way through high school.
When his mom had him bring home the books on tape, Jason chose Dickens, and I love the reason why, because it was the author he recognized because he had just seen A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I think it's his finest work.
But through talk about how, because he ended up doing what the Dickens 20 pieces for Orlando, right?
I've seen that series. It's beautiful.
And why did you say yes to doing that series?
I thought it was a nice opportunity to do something I was very familiar with. And I don't think he gets enough props as he should. They think of him only as Christmas Carol, but he did a lot of social things that really changed the whole Industrial Revolution and the way children were treated. And Queen Victoria refused to knight him because she called him a muckraker, which means he shone a light on social situation, and he was totally anti-slavery. at that time when it was still taken in America, he thought was horrifying that
And what
he
you
treated
said
people that way.
about how he depicted some rich people were wonderful and some poor people were wonderful.
He showed the aspects of everyday life. Wealthy, he showed people as fools, especially the upper class. He thought they were born into something. They didn't do anything. They were simply there, and they had privilege. And he saw them as fops and ridiculous. And even when he became wealthy himself, he still portrayed them in that way, even though he found himself doing some of the similar things, and he would chastise himself and his children to not lose the common touch.
What I loved one day when he was saying to me about Dickens, he said, you know, he showed that sometimes poor people could be just as nasty and rich people could be just as wonderful, and rich people were also nasty and poor people also, you know,